welcome back to Plum Mashable. So today I'm going to be doing another update on my family history planner using the kikki.k perforated ice blue planner. So I'm just going to open it up and I'm just going to flick straight to the person info sheet. I'm just using my little bookmark that I've made. So I'm going to walk you through this self-designed sheet for my person info sheet and sort of explain what I've done and how I'm using it and how I will probably use it the whole time. These are, as I said, self-designed, so I've designed them and I've made them based on what I need and what my family history research is kind of set out like. So it's not going to work for everybody, but it's a good way to just sort of keep the basic information sorted out so it all makes sense when you look at it. So the thing I just want to make clear to start with is, I don't know how many of you guys are doing family history research, but the biggest thing with family history research that I found in my whole big journey that I've taken with them is that all the stuff that I've got in here, a lot of it is just the bones. It's just the dates and the facts about the person, but a lot of it's not the real sort of flesh out of it. Like I might know that my ancestor was born in 1863 and I might know that he died in, I think it's 1904, I'll show you that in a sec, but I don't really know that much about him. So as this information here all sort of puts it into context, but it's certainly not the only information that I'm ever going to have on this person. It's just so I can keep it straight in my head when I'm doing my research, and so I can sort of work out the timeline of each person. So the first thing that's on the top here is just a photograph. So this, obviously every family member I have isn't going to have one, and the closer in generations they are to me, the more likely they are to have a photo. But they're not all going to have one, but I like to be able to put a face to the name if I have got one. So this one does have a photo. I'll just flick really quickly and show you one that doesn't. So that's just a blank one. So you just see we've just got a box there that just says photo. So you can see it there. So the first thing up here is obviously the name. That's very, very important. I always put the surname in capital letters just so I know that is actually their surname. I have got a couple of family members where their middle name was their mother's maiden name. So it does get a little bit confusing. So just to make sure I know what's what, the surname's always in capitals. Then got the birthplace and the birth date. Oh, hold on, other way around, sorry. Birth date and the birthplace. And then I've got a little tick box here for certificate. So this is so I can keep track of which certificates I have bought and which ones I haven't. So basically if I have the certificate, it just gets a little tick box, and then I put the number in just so if I need to find it quickly I can go and find it. If I didn't have the certificate but I did know what number it was, I would still put that number in there, I just wouldn't tick the box. So it's there for a reference point whether or not I have the certificate or not. I then put the father and the mother's name in there, again with capital letters for the surname. And then I've got this blank box, which as you can see I've written in with this one. So basically it's just so I can put this person into context in the tree. So I'm a very visual person, so to me it's much easier for me to have this laid out just in a very small abbreviated format rather than trying to remember where they are just by name. It's much easier to see it visually. So that's what that is there. And that's what I've been using it for. And then under that I have the siblings, and as much as the siblings are important, it's more, at the moment at least, they are much more for me to be able to understand in which order my ancestor was born in, but also to be able to understand the sort of, so I know for example in this family that from 1863 to 1876 they were having babies, so it just sort of puts their life into context a little bit. So it's more so I can see the year of birth. So basically I just have a space there for the name, and then I have YOB, which is year of birth, and just have them listed. A couple of them have these little X's next to them. That's just if the child died within 12 months of being born, I just put a little across there just so I know that particular child died. Then have a little note section here, so that's just so any notes that might come up. So and then I also have a little thing there for the source. So just so I can guess, or not guess, so I can go back and find the information if I need to, but just so I have a source reference there, I just put that in the notes section. So the next section down here is the marriage number 1, and I do have 2 sections, and I'll explain why in a second. So you got the same tick box for the certificate, so if I have it, I tick the box. If I don't have it, I don't, and I just put the number there. The partner, the date, the location. So that's basically all I put for the marriage. If there is something pertinent on the certificate that I need to put in there, if it's a particularly special location, I'll just put that in the notes section down the bottom. And then I just list the children the same way I did the siblings. So you put your children there with their year of births, and again, same thing, if they died within 12 months, I just put a little cross there just to signify that in my own head. And then just in the notes section, I just have the source of, mainly the marriage source there is the marriage certificate. The children, I haven't written that source in yet, but that's also on, it's on his death certificate, or it might be from a search. So the next one I have here, which is all crossed out, is the marriage 2. So far in this, I kind of have to give a bit of background. I've done my family history a long way back. I can trace one side of my family at least back to the 1590s. The problem is, when I started doing my family history, I kind of went too fast, and I didn't write down all my sources, and I didn't tab or keep track of where I actually got all the information from. So I have this big overload of information and absolutely no idea where it fits in context, which is why I'm sort of going back now and doing this so that I can keep it all, it actually makes sense, whereas now it's just a big pile of information that makes no sense. So I know a lot of my, especially my early ancestors, so back in the sort of early late 1700s, had 1 or 2 marriages, never because of, or very rarely because of divorce, but more likely because the first partner passed away. So I do have this second one here. I haven't used it for this particular relative because he didn't have one, but I do find the further back I go, the more times they've been married more than once, and it just made more sense to have this extra section here and not use it sometimes than to not have it. Like I said, these are all self-designed, so they are still being tweaked. There are still things about them that aren't quite right, and I'll probably change them along the way. In fact, I've got a change I'm going to show you just a sec. But they're not finished yet, and they're not completely perfect. They are work in progress. So if I do update them significantly, I will certainly show you. The next thing I have here is for census records / place of living. So for when I do go back to, especially England have really good census records, much better than Australia do. I'll certainly put those in, so I just put the date there and then where they were. And I can have notes down here saying where they might have been. They might have been living in a poorhouse or whatever it might be. When there is no census records, if I just know that perhaps they were living in a certain place at a certain date because of a newspaper article or stuff like that, I'm just going to put those in there. Just so obviously with the children on the page before, I can tell where they were from all the birth records. So that just gives me, it's just another piece of information to give their lives context, so I understand where they were and what they might have been doing. And there's also just a little note section here for that reason as well. So the next section here is the occupations. So for the women, especially later or further generations back, there probably won't be anything here. I don't have anything here at the moment. I do know what this particular ancestor's occupations were, but I just haven't put them in yet. So most of the time I probably won't use 4. I might only use 1 or 2. I certainly know one of my ancestors in particular had 3 or 4 occupations, so that's what that's there for. I still haven't decided yet if this is a part I like, but it's just another way to put some flesh on the bones. The next section and the last section that I have here is the death section. So it's same as before. You got the certificate, which you can see I don't have ticked on this one, so that means I don't have it, and I don't know what the number is, so I haven't got anything there. You've got your date, and this is something I've added in that I will add in when I make new copies of these pages. It's the cause of death. I just found that that's something that I needed to put there. So I've got my cause there, I've got the location, and I've got the buried. So if I do want to go and take a picture of the gravesite, which I know I can for this particular relative, I know where they are. I can go and find them reasonably easily. And then I also have the note section. Now this is a particularly large note section. It's not just for the death, it's for basically any notes. So this little note here is just where I found the information on the death and when I found the death notice and the burial source. So that's just for there. I don't have any other notes down there at the moment, but if I needed to put any there, that's what they're there for. So that is my person information sheets and how I've set them out. If you have any questions about how I've done that, or any comments or suggestions that you could give me about maybe how I could make them better, I definitely love to hear from you, so just leave a comment below. I am making up inserts as I go, so I'm sort of making them up as I need them. I have used a couple of the other sections and I'll do videos on them in the next couple of days just so you can see how I'm using them. But at this point I'm not using too many of them. If you have any, like I said, if you have any questions or comments about the planner or how I'm using it or how I do my research, I'd really like to hear from you, so please leave a comment. If you like this sort of video and you want to see more of them, please subscribe because I am doing them reasonably often now. Okay, so I'll see you all again really soon. Thanks, bye!